Hi, this is Bethany Marshall with Morgan James Publishing, and today I'm speaking with our author, Victoria Smith. And Victoria is the author of The Little Lark Still Sings, which is the life-changing adventure of an American couple who move to Tuscany and discover how much they have to learn about Italy, themselves, and their marriage. Wow, Victoria, thank you so much for spending some time today to talk with me about your beautiful new book, The Little Lark Still Sings. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you. It's a gorgeous sunny day on our hillside of terraced olive trees in Tuscany. So it's a good place to be locked down, which we are now because we're in Europe, of course.
Yes, wow. You paint such a beautiful scene in my mind about your location and really about this book in general. So, could you tell me, how did the idea for this book come about for you?
Well, when we first moved here, we of course thought it was going to be this wonderful romantic adventure. And it started out that way. And every day we would get up and something amazing would happen that day. And I'm a journaler. So I would journal it in the morning. And then the next morning I'd wake up and think, well, yesterday was amazing, but nothing like yesterday will happen today. And the day would unfold and it would be even more wonderful than the day before, with even more unexpected experiences that would never have happened in Chicago, where I lived before. So I kept notes meticulously all summer long. And then when Larry and I started not getting along so well because of the difficulties of fitting into the culture, I just kept journaling. And then I was journaling because I needed to have some way to work out my frustrations. And then as the summer progressed and our relationship transformed, I thought this could be a book because there's a story, there's a beginning, there's something that happens, there's a resolution. And so I started taking all the notes that I had collected that summer and putting them into the computer, and found that I had 600 pages of notes. So I went to a writing workshop, started the project, and didn't put it down for 10 years. So it's just been a marvelous journey to have lived it once and then to get to relive it again and again as I write and edit and finish the book, and then have you all publish it for me.
Yeah, so incredible. Wow. And for you to not only go through those experiences yourself, but be willing to turn them into, a manuscript and a book to share with others is really quite beautiful. What would you say your greatest hurdle was about trying to fit into a new foreign culture?
That's an interesting question because there wasn't just one. It was that everything was different. Everything was unknown. We have been to Italy numerous times on holiday, but there's a big difference between living somewhere and taking on daily life and vacationing. So as we were living here, the language was different, the currency was different, the driving on the roads was different, trying to get medical attention was different. Finding appliances with different outlets was different. Everything was different. But I think the most overwhelming for me was driving.
Mhm.
I learned to drive on flat, smooth, straight, wide roads in Illinois. But here, the roads are narrow, windy, and from our town to our house, the road has a stone wall on one side and a drop off on the other, and it isn't wide enough for two cars to meet. So the first car we had here was a Volvo SUV. It was a monster. And I was terrified to get behind the wheel and try just to go to town or just to go to the grocery store. So I finally sort of got comfortable with the SUV. And then our contract ran out and we rented another car. And I thought, great, we'll get a little bitty car this time that I can manage on the roads. And when Larry drove over to pick me up out of the SUV. I got in and I said, "This is wonderful." And then I saw him shift, and I don't know how to drive a stick shift. So on the narrow, windy roads with a drop off on one side and a stone wall on the other, I tried to learn how to drive a stick shift. And it wasn't easy at first, but I eventually mastered it. And now I zip all over and never and love my little panda with its stick shift.
Oh,
So
I
the
can,
driving was the biggest hurdle.
wow.
In fact, driving was the hurdle that caused my relationship with Larry to have a lot of tension, because I didn't want to drive and I was genuinely afraid. And I always wanted him to take me places. So he was looking forward to time to study and reflect and write. And I was looking for a chauffeur. So that was, that had many tense moments in it. And then when he tried to teach me to drive a stick shift, there were more tense moments. But eventually I conquered it.
Wow. It's one of those things that you might not even think to expect before you make a move or a transition like that. For that, of all things, to be one of the biggest challenges when you completely shift into a new culture. So thank you for sharing those stories. So I also understand that you almost decided not to publish this book. So could you tell me, why did you finally decide to move forward with publishing it?
That's right. I had a moment where I thought this book is too revealing of the struggles that Larry and I are having. It doesn't show either of us in a good light. And I finished the book with a bit of uneasiness, but I really wanted to finish. And then I had some friends read it. And one friend said, "I don't think you should publish this book because of the things I just mentioned." So Larry and I had a very serious conversation. And in fact, I wrote this at the very end of the book, about whether or not I should publish it. And he said, "Victoria, we're both adults. This was a difficult time for us. But if we tell others our story and what happened in the end, then perhaps it will help them with their struggles. And I definitely think you should publish the book." So we both decided to be bold and courageous and share our story.
Wow.
And it's been wonderful because I wasn't sure that message would get across, but as I read the reviews and hear what people say, that is the thing that shows up the most for them, that we were willing to share our story. And in fact, I've gotten so many emails from friends who have told me their similar story and how what we learned to do and how we coped and how we managed and how we treated one another had really helped them in their struggles.
Wow.
So
That's
that's,
amazing. It really is. And it takes a lot of courage, like you said, and vulnerability to be willing to share those struggles. But that's the ultimate aim, is to maybe help somebody else in their experiences as well. So you have gotten some really great early reader feedback. Um,
yes,
could you
it's
tell us a little bit about some of the feedback you've gotten so far?
sure. It's just a joy to wake up in the morning and find a note in my inbox or something on Instagram from somebody I don't even know saying, "I'm reading your book and I can't tell you how much I enjoy it." In fact, one thing that people are saying surprised me, because the ebook came out in February, which was, we were all neck deep in the pandemic. And several people said, "This is truly a book for the pandemic." And when I asked them why, they said, "Well, I got to go to Tuscany with you. I sat with you at the table. I walked with you on the sidewalks. I felt like I was there with you, and I got to escape to Tuscany without ever leaving my living room." So that was one way in which it was a great read for the pandemic. And another is that many of us were in 24/7 relationships for the first time. And so the story that I just told you about Larry and me going through our struggles, they said it really gave them tips and courage and inspiration to improve their own relationship in this unusual situation. And the last, and I think this is even true as we finally emerge from COVID, is that people are starting to plan their trips. And I'm getting a lot of feedback that people can't wait to come to Cortona. So that's a lot of fun.
Oh, amazing. Wow. I love that you've been getting such a beautiful feedback, and those points all make sense. So I feel like I could just kind of talk to you about your experiences and more about this book all day. But if people want to learn more or connect with you online, what is the best place for them to find you?
Well, at this point, before my website goes live, the best way to find me is by email. And the email address is victoria.lark@lodolina.com. And Lodolina is the name of our farmhouse. In Tuscany, before there were postal numbers, every house had a name, even the most simple farmhouse. And when we bought ours, it was still almost a stables below and a place for the family to live above. So the name of the house is La Lodolina, which in Italian means little lark.
Mm.
So that's why I named the book, The Little Lark Still Sings.
Mm. And it's such a beautiful cover. Do you happen to have a visual for us to maybe look at? Because
Of course I do.
striking.
Let's see, there you go.
Wow.
My books in a very Italian way are stuck in customs and have been for 22 days. So I haven't even seen one yet, but this is a photograph of the cover.
It is so striking. I cannot wait for you
Thank
to
you.
hold a copy, and hopefully they clear those customs real soon. But Victoria, thank you so much for sharing your beautiful story with us today, and congratulations on your book launch.
Thank you, Bethany. It has been a pleasure to talk with you.
Likewise.